Okay, we begin here. A few weeks ago, a man named Robert Fuller was found hanging from a tree in Southern California. And this precipitated weeks of speculation by the media, fire-stoking by Democrats and the left, protests. The left speculated or just openly outright stated that Fuller was lynched. Despite the fact that the police right away said that this is suicide. And they could tell because police respond, unfortunately, to a lot of suicide. Suicide is very common in this country and becoming more common. And it's usually easy to determine and to differentiate a suicide from a murder. Most of the time, you know, a suicide scene and a murder scene do not look the same most of the time, especially to police who do this kind of thing all the time. And yet we were still told, no, this is probably a lynching. Well, in response to the outrage, police did a more thorough investigation. I think they did the kind of investigation where they went further than they would for any other suicide, but they did. And here were their findings from the Daily News. It says the death of a black man found hanging from a tree in a Southern California city last month was ruled a suicide. Los Angeles County Sheriff Alex Villanueva promised a thorough investigation at a news conference to announce the findings. It was revealed that Fuller had a history of mental illness and suicidal tendencies. Sheriff's Commander Chris Marks outlined 3 hospitalizations since 2017 where Fuller told doctors he was considering taking his life. The last was in November when he was being treated for depression at a hospital in Nevada and said that he had a plan to kill himself. Marks also said that there was an investigation into an incident where Fuller allegedly tried to light himself on fire. Also, and this is important, I don't think it's covered in this article, but Fuller used an EBT card to buy the very rope that was used in the hanging. Okay, so it's conclusive. There was no signs of a struggle to begin with. His hands were not bound. No signs that anything occurred against his will. It's open and shut. Case closed. Very sad story. Tragic. Not a story of a murder. There was never any reason to think so, and there were a lot of very clear reasons to think otherwise, especially now. But you notice how the family said that they can't imagine that Fuller would have killed himself. Meanwhile, he was hospitalized 3 times because he was thinking about killing himself. He tried to set himself on fire a few months ago, allegedly. Did the family not know about that? Was Fuller really that depressed, that self-destructive, and his family didn't know? No, I don't know, and I certainly don't blame them for what he did. But I wonder why they were speculating about murder if he was so obviously depressed and suicidal, and someone who's hospitalized 3 times in 3 years with suicidal thoughts. That's someone who very, very clearly has suicidal tendencies and is struggling, with many internal struggles. In any case, put his family aside, the behavior from the media and the Democrats and the left was just grotesque and disgusting and soulless. They were all more than happy to take advantage of this tragic situation for their own ends. This is truly evil behavior. Again, there was never any reason to speculate that this was anything other than a suicide. The idea that someone could have been lynched by a literal lynch mob in public and nobody witnessed it and there's no video or anything and no evidence left behind is patently ludicrous. Now, I believe that some of the people in the outrage mob, some of them might be dumb enough to actually think that that's possible. But elected Democrats like Kamala Harris, for example, who was talking about this and speculating, especially someone like her who is familiar with law enforcement, she knows better. They all knew better. And yet they were stoking this fire anyway. If they had a soul, I would say they should feel shame, but they don't, so they won't. Number 2, here's a video of what guts really looks like. Not literal guts. This is not a video of someone who's been disemboweled. I mean, you have to clarify those sorts of things these days. Now, this is what courage looks like, I should say, bravery. Here you go.
This is a public street, and I have a right to stand here and get my message. I have a right to this, all the way out that street. All the way out that street. There it is. Now, I have a right to stand here. Don't touch me.
Okay, Joe, you're pushing on.
You just touched him. You guys, you get only get over the street.
You're touching her.
You know what? No, you don't think you can bully me
That's bold, okay? Walking into a mob like that with that sign, that's great. That's Savannah Hernandez, by the way. That's her name. Credits where it's due. Awesome stuff there. Number 3, I wanted to mention this. Maybe you've seen the video footage. This is Phillip Blanks, former wide receiver, retired military, caught a baby that was tossed 30 feet out of a burning building in Phoenix. If you haven't seen it, watch the footage here.
Whoa.
Jump, lady, come on! Jump, lady!
Holy shit. Good catch.
That's harrowing footage, heroic effort by Mr. Blanks there. And the reason I'm playing this, and I've seen this all over the internet, you probably have already seen it. I think it's not being emphasized enough. If you have seen this, maybe you haven't even heard this part of the story, that the baby was thrown from the burning building by the mother who saved the baby's life. The mother did not make it out. She died in the fire. And she apparently died because, as I understand it, she went back into the flames to retrieve her daughter, who she didn't realize had already been rescued by a neighbor. And she, presumably was overcome by smoke inhalation and she died. So, yeah, it's a completely tragic story, but also, and Blanks, who caught the child, is a hero in this story, and he's awesome. But the ultimate hero of the story, who I think we should talk about honoring people, should be honored, is the mother who gave her life for her children. That is a tragic yet beautiful example of motherly love. So wanted to play that for you. Number 4, Bill de Blasio was on with Wolf Blitzer yesterday when he explained, okay, so we'll go from the ultimate of courage to the ultimate of gutless cowardice. And that's Bill de Blasio was on CNN. He explained that New York needs to go back into a full lockdown, no large gatherings of any kind, with one exception. Can you guess what the exception is?
So describe large events for us. What does that mean?
It means like street fairs. It means, big outdoor concerts, and it means things like parades. Things that here in the city can mean not just thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people. It's just not time for that now.
What about protests? If people want to march down Fifth Avenue, are they going to be allowed to do so?
Look, Wolf, this is always an area of real sensitivity. If you're just talking about health, we would always say, hey, folks, stay home if you can. But we understand at this moment in history, people are talking about the need for historic changes. I mean, today in New York City, recognizing the power and the meaning of the message Black Lives Matter, which we did in front of Trump Tower today. This is a historic moment of change. We have to respect that, but also say to people, the kinds of gatherings we're used to, the parades, the fairs, we just can't have that while we're focusing on health right now.
Not that this matters anymore, but that is just blatantly unconstitutional. That is viewpoint discrimination. You cannot do that. You can't tell people that they're only allowed to gather if they're expressing this or that point of view. That's a just quintessential violation of the Constitution. There's no discussion to be had. It would be hard to think of a more blatant violation of the First Amendment than that. But he's doing it anyway. And that's the thing. You see that we can shout and scream that something is unconstitutional. Those in power are just going to do it anyway. And that's what's happening in New York. 5, finally, here's footage out of Florida. Giant stingrays are seen swimming by unsuspecting beachgoers. And, you see that and you think, okay, well, there's the stingrays. It's a pretty big stingrays. That's cool. Wow, look at those. And those are big stingrays. So that's pretty cool stuff. Interesting. But then you see, wait a second, what? They buried the lead there. What is that? Is that Hellboy? Is that Satan himself swimming in the ocean? Is that some kind of mutant human tomato half-breed? No, that's a person. That's a full person with the worst sunburn of all time. That is a 33rd degree sunburn that he has. His skin has melted off his body. That's not even his skin. That's the insides of him. He looks like he fell into a vat of V8 juice or something. The worst Batman villain of all time fell into a vat of V8 juice. Look at that. My God. I thought I got bad sunburns. I burn pretty easily. This dude's not going to be able to take a hot shower until like next March sometime. My goodness. Wear your sunscreen, kids. Wear the sunscreen. I'm a hypocrite because I rarely wear it myself because I just enjoy the pain, I guess. Masochist, I don't know. But wear your sunscreens. That's the real message there. This video is sponsored by Blinksale, the revolutionary invoicing software for contractors and small businesses. Spend less time billing and more time making bank with Blinksale. Get a free trial at the link in the video description.